The massive crystalline halls of the Galactic Council Station stretched out like a frozen cathedral, its walls pulsing with soft blue light that seemed to breathe with the rhythm of 1,000 alien heartbeats. Representatives from across the known galaxy had gathered here today, their varied forms creating a bizarre tapestry of evolution's wildest experiments. The air itself hummed with tension so thick you could almost taste the metallic bite of fear and anticipation. Ambassador Veltar of the mighty Hegemony Empire rose from his seat with the fluid grace of a predator. His 4 powerful arms spread wide as he gestured toward the massive holographic displays that dominated the center of the chamber. Each arm moved independently, creating an almost hypnotic dance of authority and dominance that had intimidated countless species across the stars. Esteemed council members, Veltar's voice emerged as a series of rapid clicks and whistles, instantly translated by the chamber's advanced linguistic processors into the standard galactic tongue. His words carried the weight of absolute certainty, the kind of confidence that came from representing one of the galaxy's most feared military powers. We stand at the precipice of a catastrophe that threatens the very foundation of galactic security. The holographic displays flickered to life, showing grainy surveillance footage that made the assembled delegates lean forward in their seats. Human spacecraft appeared on the screens, and the collective gasp that echoed through the chamber was almost deafening. These weren't the sleek, energy-wreathed vessels that most galactic civilizations fielded. Instead, they looked like something pulled from an ancient scrapyard. The human ships were boxy and utilitarian, their hulls scarred with visible welding marks and patches. Primitive chemical rockets left trails of fire and smoke behind them like ancient torches burning in the void. Their armor plating looked thick and crude, bolted together with techniques that most species had abandoned when they first learned to split the atom. "Behold," Veltar announced with theatrical disgust, "the military might of humanity." These creatures, barely a decade removed from their first stumbling steps into our civilized galaxy, dare to call these museum pieces a defensive fleet. Technical readouts began scrolling beside each ship image, and the numbers were almost embarrassing. Fusion reactors that generated power levels equivalent to what most species used for civilian cargo haulers. Kinetic weapons that fired solid projectiles instead of sophisticated energy beams. Defensive systems that relied on thick metal plating rather than advanced energy shields or phase barriers. Ambassador Kim Minho sat in the human delegation section like a statue carved from stone. His weathered face, marked by decades of diplomatic service, showed absolutely nothing as the alien voices around him rose in a mixture of concern, amusement, and outright pity. His dark eyes remained fixed on the displays, but those who knew him well might have noticed the slight tightening around his eyes that suggested deep concentration rather than embarrassment. Beside him, Admiral Park Ji-won maintained her perfect military posture, despite the humiliating spectacle unfolding before the galaxy's most powerful beings. Her uniform was crisp and professional, but it looked almost primitive compared to the flowing energy suits and crystalline armor worn by other species' military representatives. Her hands remained folded in her lap, steady and calm, even as snickers and clicking sounds of alien laughter began to fill the chamber. The Zephyrian delegate, a gaseous being contained within a shimmering force field, pulsed with colors that their translators indicated as extreme amusement. "Their largest vessel generates less energy than our atmospheric processors," the creature wheezed through its communication device. A representative from the insectoid Kithara swarm rubbed his compound eyes with multiple limbs. How did these primitives even achieve faster-than-light travel? Their technology appears to predate our Bronze Age. Veltar seized on the growing mockery, his forearms spreading wider as his chest swelled with satisfaction. "You see the magnitude of our dilemma. These humans cannot possibly defend themselves against even the most minor threats that lurk in the dark spaces between stars. Pirate fleets with century-old equipment could sweep aside their entire military." He paused for dramatic effect, letting his words sink into the minds of every delegate present. For their own protection and for the stability of our galactic community, the Hegemony formally proposes immediate military oversight by the Altarian Defense Consortium. These humans need guardians, not independents. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber like a wave. The Altarian Defense Consortium was known throughout the galaxy as a benevolent but firm peacekeeping force. Their ships were legendary for their power, and their crew's dedication to protecting weaker species from the harsh realities of galactic politics. Council Chairman Ixthor, an ancient being whose tentacles had seen the rise and fall of a dozen civilizations, writhed thoughtfully in his ceremonial chair. His skin shifted through several shades of contemplative purple before settling on a pale blue that indicated careful consideration. Ambassador Kim. The chairman's voice resonated through the chamber with the authority of eons. How do you respond to these revelations about your fleet's capabilities? Every eye, optical sensor, and consciousness detector in the chamber focused on the small human figure as Kim Minho rose slowly from his seat. The contrast was almost comical. This single, seemingly fragile biped, standing before creatures that could tear apart starships with their bare appendages or manipulate matter at the molecular level with their thoughts. Honored Chairman, Kim's voice carried clearly through the chamber despite its quiet tone, the Republic of Earth formally requests 30 standard galactic days to demonstrate our defensive readiness. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Laughter erupted from dozens of different species, creating a cacophony of sounds that ranged from melodious chiming to harsh mechanical grinding. The hegemony delegation practically doubled over with mirth, their translator systems working overtime. To convert their amusement into standard galactic, Veltar's eyes literally glowed with amusement, bioluminescent organs pulsing with humor. 30 days to upgrade technology that's centuries behind our current standards. You might as well ask for 30 days to evolve new limbs. But Kim Minho remained standing, his expression unchanged, waiting patiently for the laughter to subside. When the chamber finally quieted, he spoke again with the same calm authority. Nevertheless, honored delegates, we formally request this demonstration period as is our right under Article 7 of the Galactic Admission Treaty. All member species are entitled to prove their defensive capabilities when challenged. Chairman, Ixthor's tentacles coiled and uncoiled as he consulted with his advisors through rapid telepathic exchanges. Ancient legal precedents were reviewed in microseconds, treaty obligations weighed against practical concerns. Finally, his skin settled into a resigned shade of grey-green. The request is legally sound, he announced reluctantly. You have 30 standard days to demonstrate military adequacy, sufficient for independent membership. Should you fail this demonstration, Earth will accept consortium protection as a protectorate species. As the session officially adjourned, and delegates began filing out through various exits suited to their different physiologies, the holographic news networks across the galaxy were already picking up the story. Headlines blazed across billions of screens in hundreds of languages and thought patterns. Human warships revealed as obsolete museum pieces, primitive Earth fleet, poses, no threat to galactic peace, betting pools open on human military demonstration. Failure. Back in their secure diplomatic quarters, Ambassador Kim and Admiral Park finally allowed themselves to relax slightly. The rooms were designed for human physiology, but monitored by sophisticated alien surveillance systems that could detect everything from heartbeat variations to pheromone releases. Admiral Park waited until their daily security sweep confirmed. They were as alone as possible before speaking in barely audible Korean. They took the bait perfectly. Kim Minho allowed himself his first genuine smile of the day, the expression transforming his weathered features. Signal Earth Command through the Quantum Entanglement Communicator. Tell them Operation Mirror begins immediately. Deep in space, invisible to alien sensors, something vast and patient began to stir in the darkness between worlds. 200 meters beneath the lunar surface, hidden behind layers of reinforced titanium and quantum-dampening fields, Admiral Lee Seung-ho stood in the heart of humanity's greatest secret. The war room stretched out like a cathedral of technology, its walls lined with holographic displays that showed the positions of every human vessel across known space. The soft blue glow of the screens cast strange shadows across the faces of Earth's true military leadership as they coordinated the most important deception in human history. The incoming transmission from the Galactic Council station flickered to life on the main display, showing Ambassador Kim Min-ho's weathered face. His words were calm and measured, but Lee could see the slight tension around his old friend's eyes that spoke of the enormous pressure they were all under. 30 days, Lee murmured to his aide, Captain Choi Min-jae, who stood at attention beside the command console. The young officer's face was impassive, but Lee could see the excitement burning behind his dark eyes. They had all been waiting for this moment for decades. "More than enough time, sir," Choi asked quietly, though they both knew the answer. Lee smiled grimly as he turned to study the massive tactical display that dominated the center of the room. Hundreds of tiny lights represented human vessels scattered across dozens of star systems, each one playing their part in the greatest military deception ever attempted. "More than enough time, Captain. Signal all division commanders. Operation Mirror is now active." The response was immediate and coordinated with precision that would have surprised any alien observer. Across human space, seemingly routine orders began flowing through encrypted quantum channels that appeared to alien monitoring systems as nothing more than standard commercial and civilian communications. The cargo hauler New Seoul, operating in the Tau Ceti system, received what appeared to be a simple shipping manifest update. Captain Yoon Haeun read the coded message twice before a slow smile spread across her face. Her ship, which looked like nothing more than a battered freight hauler to any casual observer, was actually one of humanity's most sophisticated reconnaissance vessels. Its hull was packed with sensor arrays that could detect alien surveillance from light years away. "Navigation, plot a course for the Outer Rim sectors," she ordered her crew, who looked like ordinary merchant sailors but were actually elite intelligence operatives. "Looks like we're taking some cargo to places that don't exist on any official star charts." The ship's engines, which appeared to be standard fusion drives to alien scanners, quietly engaged their true propulsion systems. The New Seoul slipped away from the established trade routes and began its journey into the dark spaces between stars where humanity's real secrets waited. Meanwhile, in the asteroid mining fields of the Kepler system, Supervisor Kang Woo-jin received an urgent message about equipment maintenance schedules. To anyone monitoring human industrial communications, it looked like another example of humanity's inefficient bureaucracy causing delays in their primitive mining operations. "All crews report to emergency stations," Kang announced over the facility's communication system. "We're shutting down operations for scheduled maintenance." His workers, who appeared to be ordinary miners and technicians, began moving with military precision. The massive mining platforms that had been extracting metals from asteroids for years suddenly revealed their true purpose. Hidden weapon systems emerged from concealed compartments, and what had appeared to be ore processing equipment transformed into sophisticated manufacturing facilities that had been secretly building components for humanity's hidden fleet. In the deep space exploration sector, Captain Lim Ji-young received a priority message, while her survey vessel was supposedly mapping uninhabited star systems. Her ship, the Horizon Walker, looked like a typical scientific vessel to alien observers, complete with visible sensor arrays and research equipment. But like every other human ship that aliens had been allowed to observe, it was an elaborate fake. "Engineering, we're having some technical difficulties with our main communications array," Ji-young announced over the ship's intercom, following the coded script perfectly. "We'll need to go dark for repairs." Her crew began the carefully rehearsed procedures that would make their ship disappear from alien tracking networks. Advanced stealth systems that violated several laws of physics quietly engaged, bending light and sensor waves around the vessel until it became effectively invisible to any technology the galaxy currently understood. To alien observers monitoring human military communications from their hidden surveillance stations, everything appeared perfectly normal. In fact, the human response looked even more chaotic and disorganized than usual. Their primitive command structure seemed to be struggling desperately to coordinate some kind of defense demonstration, with ships reporting equipment failures and communication breakdowns across multiple systems. Hegemony intelligence analysts studying the intercepted transmissions actually found the situation rather amusing. The humans were clearly panicking, trying to make their obsolete technology appear more capable than it actually was. Some of the alien observers even placed bets on how spectacular the human failure would be during their demonstration. Back in the Lunar War Room, Captain Choi reported the latest updates with barely contained excitement. "Sir, Phase 2 assets are moving to designated positions. Hegemony surveillance drones are tracking our decoy movements perfectly. They have no idea what they're actually seeing." Admiral Lee nodded approvingly as he watched the tactical display update in real time. Every human vessel that aliens were monitoring was exactly where it was supposed to be, playing its part in the deception with flawless execution. The real activity was happening in spaces that didn't officially exist, using technology that the galaxy had never seen before. "And our real fleet?" Lee asked, though he already knew the answer would be good news. "Awakening protocols initiated on schedule, sir." Admiral Bay reports that all Ghost Fleet assets will be fully operational within 22 days. The quantum cores are already beginning their startup sequences, light years away from any inhabited system in the cold darkness beyond Pluto's orbit, where no alien sensor had ever detected anything more interesting than space dust and cosmic radiation. Something vast and impossible began to stir. Automated systems that had waited in perfect silence for 50 years suddenly came to life with the patient efficiency of a sleeping giant awakening from dreams of war. Massive structures that had been hidden in pocket dimensions began their emergence protocols. Power cores that operated on principles the galaxy's greatest scientists would have declared impossible started their initialization sequences. These weren't the crude fusion reactors that aliens had observed in human ships. These were quantum singularity generators that tapped directly into the fabric of space-time itself, drawing energy from sources that existed outside normal reality. The ships emerging from their dimensional hiding places were nothing like the boxy, utilitarian vessels that aliens had been allowed to observe. These were predators designed by a species that had taken a completely different path through the maze of technological development. Where other civilizations had focused on making existing technologies bigger and more powerful, humanity had quietly revolutionized the fundamental principles of physics itself. Captain Yoon Hyun, now deep in uncharted space, where her reconnaissance vessel could operate without any possibility of alien detection, transmitted a coded message through quantum entanglement communicators that operated faster than light and left no trace that alien technology could detect. "Mirror reflections clear," her message read. "All surveillance assets fooled completely. No one suspects the truth about our real capabilities." Across the galaxy, alien news networks continued their mockery of humanity's pathetic military preparations. Comedy shows featured skits about human ships held together with metal bolts and powered by chemical reactions. Military analysts appeared on talk shows to explain why the upcoming demonstration would be an embarrassing failure that would finally prove humanity's need for alien protection. They had no idea that in the deepest, darkest corners of space, humanity's real weapons were stirring to life. Ships that existed partially outside normal spacetime were beginning their journey toward a demonstration that would rewrite every military manual in the known galaxy. The galaxy continued to laugh at humanity's obsolete technology, while Earth's true fleet prepared to emerge from shadows deeper than space itself, carrying secrets that would change the balance of power among the stars forever. In the absolute darkness beyond the edge of the solar system, where even the sun appeared as nothing more than a distant star, Admiral Bay Sunwoo stood on the bridge of something that should not have existed. The Indomitable stretched 15 kilometers from its predatory bow to its engine clusters that hummed with energies borrowed from the quantum foam itself. Its hull didn't reflect light like normal matter, instead seeming to absorb photons and bend them around its surface in ways that made looking at it directly almost painful. The bridge itself was a marvel that would have driven alien scientists to madness. Holographic displays showed information that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously, while the crew operated controls that responded to thought as much as touch. Everything was designed around principles that the galaxy's greatest minds had dismissed as theoretical impossibilities. "Dimensional fold generators are coming online, sir," reported Commander Han Yujin from her station, her fingers dancing. across controls that manipulated the fabric of space-time itself. The engineering displays showed power levels that should have torn the ship apart, but instead fed systems that existed partially outside normal reality. Quantum displacement drives are responding within normal parameters, Admiral Bay allowed, himself one of his rare smiles as he studied the tactical displays surrounding his command chair. Each screen showed the awakening of humanity's greatest secret, vessels that had been hiding in pocket dimensions for decades, while the galaxy believed humans were struggling with primitive fusion technology. Around the Indomitable, dozens of similar dreadnoughts were emerging from their dimensional hiding places, like ghosts materializing from another realm. Each ship was unique, designed around different applications of physics that alien science had never even theorized. Some vessels phased in and out of visible space, existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Others appeared to be constructed from materials that bent light around them, creating optical illusions that hurt to look at directly. The Eternal, commanded by Captain Kim Hyong, was emerging from a fold in space that created rainbow aurora effects as reality twisted around its hull. The ship's weapons systems operated on principles that turned enemy attacks into energy for its own systems, making it effectively immune to conventional warfare. The Phantom, under Captain Lee Min-hyuk's command, flickered between dimensions so rapidly that it appeared as a stuttering afterimage. Its crew had learned to exist partially outside normal time, allowing them to attack enemies before those enemies even realized they were under threat. While the galaxy followed their predictable paths of technological development, Bay mused aloud, bigger fusion reactors, stronger plasma weapons, faster hyperspace drives, humanity chose a completely different approach after first contact. Commander, Han nodded as she monitored the awakening fleet. Instead of trying to copy alien technology, our scientists explored every theoretical possibility that others had dismissed as impossible. Quantum mechanics, dimensional physics, time dilation, weaponry, reality manipulation systems. Status report on our demonstration fleet? Admiral Bay asked, though he already knew the answer would be exactly what they had planned. All vessels are operational and ready, sir. Intelligence confirms that hegemony surveillance still believes our surface fleet represents our complete military capacity. Han's fingers flew over her displays, showing intercepts of alien communications. They're expecting 12 obsolete human ships to appear for the demonstration. Their analysts are already preparing reports about our inevitable failure. Through the observation ports that lined the bridge, Bay could see the true scope of humanity's secret. Massive dreadnoughts continued emerging from pocket dimensions that folded space around them like origami made of reality itself. The Ghost Fleet represented 50 years of secret development, hidden research facilities scattered across dimensions that officially didn't exist. The ships themselves defied every law of physics that alien civilizations understood. The Nexus appeared to be constructed from crystallized space-time, its hull shimmering with patterns that existed in more than 3 dimensions. The paradox seemed to be moving backward through time, even while advancing forward, creating temporal loops that made tracking its position impossible. Captain Song Tai-hyun's voice crackled through quantum entanglement communicators from the bridge. Of the Defiant, a vessel that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. All captains reporting ready status, Admiral. Dimensional anchors are stable, and phase shift coordinates are locked in. The Defiant itself was a masterpiece of impossible engineering. Its hull appeared to be made of liquid metal that flowed and shifted constantly, adapting its shape for optimal performance in whatever dimension it currently occupied. Weapons systems emerged from the flowing surface like organic growths, each one designed to exploit weaknesses in alien defensive technologies that hadn't even been discovered yet. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the galactic news networks were having a field day with humanity's upcoming demonstration. Alien comedians made jokes about human ships, held together with primitive welding and powered by chemical explosions. Military experts appeared on talk shows across dozens of species' homeworlds, all predicting the same embarrassing outcome. Human. Admiral promises demonstration of obsolete fleet, chittered one hegemony broadcaster, its mandibles clicking with amusement. Military analysts predict embarrassing display of primitive kinetic weapons that will prove humanity's need for immediate protection. A Zephyrian gas being pulsed with colors that indicated extreme mirth as it added, "Perhaps they will demonstrate their ability to throw rocks at faster-than-light speeds. Such primitive aggression from a species that still uses solid matter for space travel." The entertainment value was enormous across the galaxy. Betting pools had opened on various aspects of humanity's failure. Would their ships explode on startup? Would they accidentally fire on each other? Would they simply drift helplessly in space while making apologetic radio transmissions? Admiral Lee Seung-ho, monitoring these feeds from his command center beneath Luna's surface, chuckled darkly as he watched alien comedians mock humanity's military preparations. "If only they knew what obsolete really means in human terms," he murmured to his staff. The irony was delicious. While aliens laughed at humanity's crude fusion reactors, human scientists had already moved beyond matter-energy conversion entirely. While alien weapons focused on delivering more destructive force, human weapons had learned to convince enemy systems that they had never existed in the first place. In the demonstration zone near Alpha Centauri, advanced alien observers were already positioning themselves for the show. Massive hegemony battle cruisers took up positions that would give them perfect views of humanity's humiliation. Smaller vessels from dozens of species jockeyed for the best observation angles, their crews excited to witness firsthand the failure of a primitive species that had somehow stumbled into galactic society. They had brought recording equipment to document every moment of human embarrassment. Plans were already in motion to use the footage for educational purposes, showing young aliens what happened when primitive species tried to pretend they belonged among the stars. None of them realized that space itself was about to become a classroom, and they were about to learn lessons in warfare that would render their most advanced military theories obsolete overnight. The Ghost Fleet continued its patient emergence from dimensions that alien science insisted were empty, carrying weapons that operated on principles the galaxy had never imagined. In the cold darkness between stars, humanity's true power stirred to life, ready to rewrite the rules of galactic civilization with technologies that existed beyond the boundaries of what was considered possible. The demonstration was about to begin, and the galaxy had no idea what it was really about to witness. Commander Ominseo stood on the bridge of the mighty hegemony battlecruiser Supremacy, his forearms crossed in a gesture of supreme confidence. The massive warship stretched over, 3 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull bristling with enough firepower to reduce entire planets to glowing debris. Around him, his crew of seasoned warriors monitored their instruments with the casual efficiency of predators who had never encountered prey that could fight back. Through the observation windows, space around Alpha Centauri looked like the galaxy's greatest military parade. Hundreds of alien vessels had gathered to witness what everyone expected would be humanity's final humiliation before accepting their place as a protected species. The Zephyrian cloud ships pulsed with anticipatory colors, their gaseous forms contained within shimmering energy fields. Insectoid Kythera swarm vessels buzzed in perfect formation, their compound sensor arrays gleaming like jeweled eyes. Even the mysterious Voidwalkers had sent representative ships, their dark hulls seeming to absorb light itself. "Sir, we're receiving live broadcast feeds from over 200 news networks," reported his communications officer, her chittering voice filled with amusement. "This is the most watched military demonstration in galactic history." O's mandibles clicked with pleasure as he imagined the ratings. The entire galaxy was tuning in to watch primitive humans embarrass themselves with their obsolete technology. Betting pools had reached astronomical numbers, with odds heavily favoring complete human military collapse within minutes of the demonstration beginning. "Contacts approaching on long-range sensors," his sensor operator announced, her voice struggling to contain laughter. "Reading 12 human vessels on approach vectors, just as intelligence predicted." "Only 12 ships," O burst out laughing, the sound echoing through the bridge like breaking glass. "Their entire demonstration fleet could fit in our shuttle bay. This will be over so quickly we might not even need to power up our secondary weapons." The space around them continued filling with observer vessels, as representatives from dozens of species positioned themselves for optimal viewing angles. Massive hegemony dreadnoughts took up protective positions around the smaller observer ships, their crews confident that nothing the humans could field would pose even the slightest threat to galactic security. Holographic news crews aboard specialized. Broadcast vessels began their live coverage, beaming images and commentary to billions of viewers across the galaxy. The excitement was palpable as alien civilizations prepared to witness the final proof of humanity's primitive status. Then reality itself seemed to scream. The fabric of space around Alpha Centauri suddenly twisted and folded like paper being crumpled by invisible hands. Sensors across the alien fleet went insane as their instruments tried to process readings that violated every known law of physics. Warning alarms began blaring throughout the observation fleet as gravitational waves that shouldn't exist rippled through the void. The 12 expected human ships appeared first, looking exactly as pathetic as everyone had predicted. Boxy, utilitarian vessels with visible hull plating and primitive exhaust trails, they seemed almost comically inadequate compared to the alien warships surrounding them. But then space itself tore open. Massive shapes began emerging from impossible angles, phasing into normal reality, from dimensions that officially didn't exist. The 12 human ships that everyone had been expecting were suddenly dwarfed by titanic vessels that defied every principle of engineering and physics that galactic civilization understood. Commander O's confident smile vanished as his sensors registered power signatures that made his battlecruiser look like a child's toy. The first massive shape to fully materialize was something that shouldn't have been possible. A ship 15 kilometers long that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions simultaneously. "What in the void is that thing?" O whispered, his forearms trembling as he stared at the impossible sight outside his windows. Admiral Bei Sunwoo's voice transmitted clearly across all frequencies, calm and professional, despite the chaos erupting throughout the observation fleet. "Galactic observers, you are witnessing the demonstration capabilities of Earth's defense fleet." The Indomitable hung in space like a monument to impossibility, its hull shimmering with spatial distortions that bent light around it in patterns. That hurt to look at directly. The ship's surface seemed to flow and shift, revealing weapon systems that emerged from folded space itself before disappearing back into dimensions that alien science insisted were empty. Commander O's sensor readings went completely haywire as more massive shapes continued materializing around his battlecruiser, ships that generated more energy than small stars, powered up systems that operated on principles the galaxy had never even theorized. Warning klaxons screamed throughout the supremacy as its defensive systems tried to lock onto targets that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Impossible," O whispered, his voice barely audible over the chaos erupting on his bridge. "These power signatures, they're off every scale we have. How are they generating stellar-level energy without antimatter reactors?" The Eternal phase shifted into reality nearby, its crystalline hull refracting starlight into rainbow patterns that created aurora effects in the vacuum of space. The ship's weapon systems were already online, but instead of conventional energy cannons, they appeared to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. Captain Kim Sora's voice crackled over communications from the dimensional warfare vessel horizon, which flickered between dimensions so rapidly it appeared as a stuttering afterimage. "Hegemony vessel supremacy. You are now locked onto by quantum displacement cannons. Please maintain position for safety purposes." O's tactical officer stared at her displays in horror. "Sir, I'm reading weapons locks from vessels that don't seem to exist in normal space. Our defensive systems can't target something that phases in and out of reality." Throughout the observation fleet, similar scenes of shock and disbelief played out, as alien crews tried to process what they were witnessing. The Zephyrian cloud ships had stopped pulsing with amusement, and instead glowed with colors that indicated pure terror. Kithara swarm vessels broke formation as their compound minds struggled to comprehend technology that violated their understanding of existence itself. More human vessels continued emerging from folded space. The paradox appeared. To be moving backward through time while advancing forward creating temporal distortions that made tracking its position impossible. The Phantom flickered between dimensions so rapidly that it seemed to exist in all possible locations simultaneously. Across the galaxy, alien military analysts monitoring the live feeds frantically tried to update their threat assessments. Every computer model they had for human military capability was suddenly worthless. The primitive fusion reactors and kinetic weapons they had been analyzing were apparently just the tip of an iceberg that extended into dimensions they didn't even know existed. Admiral Bay's calm voice continued the demonstration, each word carefully chosen to drive home the magnitude of what the galaxy was witnessing. Earth's defensive doctrine incorporates spatial manipulation, quantum displacement weaponry, and dimensional phase technology. What you previously observed were our diplomatic vessels, designed specifically for peaceful contact and trade relations. The revelation hit the observation fleet like a physical blow. Everything they had seen of human military capability had been an elaborate deception. The crude, boxy ships with primitive weapons weren't humanity's military at all. They were essentially civilian vessels designed to make first contact less threatening to alien civilizations. The Ghost Fleet hung in space around Alpha Centauri like impossible monuments to human ingenuity. Each vessel represented technologies that rendered the entire galaxy's military doctrine obsolete overnight. Ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, weapons that convinced enemy systems they had never existed, defensive systems that turned attacks into energy for their own use. The Nexus, constructed from what appeared to be crystallized space-time itself, demonstrated its capabilities by briefly existing in 7 dimensions at once. The effect created visual distortions that made several alien observers physically ill as their brains tried to process geometry that shouldn't be possible. Commander O's communications officer turned to him with wide, terrified eyes. "Sir, we're receiving messages from observation vessels throughout the fleet. Everyone wants to know if we should retreat to a safe distance." O stared at the impossible sight outside his windows, where human vessels that dwarfed his mighty battlecruiser continued emerging from folded space with casual ease. The demonstration wasn't even halfway complete, and already every military manual in the known galaxy had become worthless paper. "Safe distance?" he whispered, his voice hollow with shock. "I don't think such a thing exists anymore." The galaxy had gathered to mock humanity's primitive military technology, but instead found themselves witnessing the birth of a new era where the rules of warfare had been completely rewritten by a species that had quietly revolutionized physics itself. The crystalline halls of the Galactic Council Station felt completely different now. Where just 30 days ago, alien delegates had filled the chamber with mocking laughter, now only hushed whispers echoed through the vast space. The same representatives who had dismissed humanity as a primitive species requiring protection now sat in stunned silence, their various forms of eyes, sensors, and consciousness detectors focused on the holographic displays that continued replaying footage from Alpha Centauri. Ambassador Kim Minho walked toward the central podium with steady steps, but everything about his presence had fundamentally changed. The weathered diplomat who had quietly accepted the galaxy's condescension was gone, replaced by the representative of a technological superpower that had been hiding in plain sight for decades. His simple human appearance now seemed almost ominous to alien observers who had learned that appearances could be the most dangerous deceptions of all. "Esteemed council members," Kim began, his voice carrying an authority that made even the most powerful alien representatives lean forward in their seats. "The Republic of Earth formally and definitively declines the consortium's generous offer of military protection." The words hung in the air like a physical presence. Across the chamber, delegates who had been so confident in their technological superiority just days before now shifted uncomfortably in their various seats, perches, and floating apparatus. The Zephyrian gas being's colors had shifted to deep purples and blacks that indicated profound unease, while the insectoid Kethera representatives clicked their mandibles in patterns that suggested barely controlled panic. Chairman Ixthor's ancient tentacles trembled visibly, as intelligence reports continued flooding his personal displays. His advisors, beings who had witnessed the rise and fall of dozens of civilizations, were frantically updating threat assessments and trying to comprehend technologies that violated every known law of physics. Ambassador Kim, the chairman's voice carried centuries of diplomatic experience, but now it wavered with uncertainty. How did humanity develop such unprecedented capabilities? Our best scientists are telling me that what we witnessed at Alpha Centauri should be theoretically impossible. Admiral Park Ji-won stepped forward to stand beside Kim, her military bearing now radiating the quiet confidence of someone who commanded forces that could reshape reality itself. Her simple uniform seemed almost quaint compared to the elaborate ceremonial garments worn by other species' military representatives, but everyone in the chamber now understood that appearances meant nothing when it came to human capabilities. While the galaxy followed predictable technological development paths, Park explained, with the patience of a teacher addressing confused students, humanity chose to explore alternative physics principles that others had dismissed as impossible theories. Our scientists investigated quantum mechanics applications, dimensional manipulation techniques, and reality-altering technologies that your civilizations never considered practical. Veltar of the mighty hegemony, his forearms that had once gestured with supreme confidence now trembling with barely concealed terror, struggled to find words. The power outputs our sensors recorded during your demonstration. Your largest vessels were generating energy equivalent to stellar cores. How is such a thing possible without matter-antimatter annihilation reactions? Admiral Park smiled with the satisfaction of someone revealing a carefully guarded secret. Our dimensional fold technology allows us to tap directly into zero-point energy fields that exist in the quantum foam underlying reality itself. We discovered it was far more efficient than antimatter reactors, which seemed crude and wasteful once we understood how to manipulate the fundamental structure of space-time. The explanation sent waves of shock through the assembled delegates. Zero-point energy was considered a theoretical curiosity by most galactic civilizations, something that existed in laboratory conditions but could never be harnessed for practical applications. The idea that humans had not only figured out how to use it, but had built their entire military around it, was almost incomprehensible. Throughout the galaxy, military commanders and scientists were frantically working around the clock trying to reverse engineer the footage from the Alpha Centauri demonstration. Computer systems that had successfully analyzed alien technologies for millennia crashed when trying to process human vessels that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Weapons experts stared in bewilderment at recordings of human weapons that fired projectiles through dimensional rifts, bypassing shields and armor, by attacking from directions that didn't technically exist. The defensive systems displayed by the human fleet were even more disturbing to military analysts. Instead of traditional energy shields or armor plating, human ships seemed to possess defensive technologies that simply made enemy attacks cease to exist. Plasma bolts fired at human vessels didn't bounce off or get absorbed, they vanished from reality as if they had never been fired at all. Captain Yoon Hyun, whose cargo ship had been revealed as one of humanity's most sophisticated reconnaissance vessels, transmitted a coded message from deep space that reached Earth through quantum entanglement communicators. Her report, when decoded, sent chills through human command structure. Additional research stations throughout the outer systems are coming online ahead of schedule. Next-generation technologies are entering final testing phases. The demonstration fleet represents less than 20% of our actual capabilities. The implications were staggering. If the impossible vessels that had shocked the galaxy at Alpha Centauri were just a fraction of humanity's true military strength, then the balance of galactic power hadn't just shifted. It had been completely obliterated and rebuilt around a species that most civilizations had considered primitive just 1 month ago. Kim Min-ho surveyed the stunned faces throughout the council chamber before addressing them one final time. His words were carefully chosen to reshape the entire foundation of galactic civilization. Given the recent revelations about Earth's defensive capabilities, he said with diplomatic precision, We believe the time has come for humanity to take a more active role in maintaining galactic peace and security. Therefore, Earth formally offers our services as peacekeeping coordinators for the galactic community. We believe this arrangement would benefit all member species. The offer wasn't really a request, and everyone in the chamber understood the unspoken implications. Humanity had just demonstrated that they possessed military technology that rendered every other civilization's defenses obsolete. They were politely offering to use that overwhelming power for peaceful purposes, but the alternative, leaving such capabilities in the hands of a species that might have different ideas about galactic governance, was too terrifying to contemplate. Chairman, Ixthor consulted with his advisors through rapid telepathic exchanges that lasted mere seconds. Ancient protocols for dealing with overwhelmingly superior civilizations were dusted off and reviewed. The decision, when it came, was as inevitable as gravity. The motion to accept Earth's offer of peacekeeping coordination is put to immediate vote, Ixthor announced. All in favor? The response was unanimous. Not a single delegate voted against humanity's new role as the galaxy's primary military power. Even the proudest and most aggressive species recognized that they now lived in a universe where human approval determined the difference between peace and annihilation. As the session adjourned, and alien delegates began the long journey back to their homeworlds with news that would fundamentally alter galactic civilization, human scientists continued their quiet work in research facilities scattered throughout the outer solar system. The demonstration at Alpha Centauri had revealed just enough of humanity's capabilities to secure their position while keeping their most revolutionary discoveries safely hidden. In laboratories that existed in folded space-time, human researchers were already testing technologies that would make the Ghost Fleet look primitive by comparison. Weapons that could edit the past to prevent wars from starting, defensive systems that existed in all possible realities simultaneously, and propulsion technologies that could traverse not just space, but the boundaries between different universes entirely. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about underestimating humanity, but Earth scientists understood that their greatest discoveries still lay ahead. They had revealed enough power to reshape galactic civilization, while keeping their true capabilities safely hidden in dimensions that alien science didn't even know existed. The age of human dominance had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The end.